Hello, my name's David Eyre. I'm from the University of Oxford, and I've just come from presenting two talks on C. difficile infection on day one of the conference. And what we found in the first talk was we used whole genome sequencing of C. difficile to work out how C. diff spreads around hospitals. And we compared 6 different hospitals from England and looked to see how many cases we could find were genetically related, so possibly transmitted from a previous case. And what we found is overall actually rates of transmission in these 6 hospitals were relatively low. We found rates around 20%, but we did find that one hospital particularly performed much better than all the others, with rates of transmission of under 10%. And so what we were able to do with this tool is really suggest that this could be used for monitoring C. diff transmission in hospitals and could be used as a way of identifying the very best hospitals and using them as an example to try and reduce rates of C. difficile overall. In the second talk, we've gone on to do C. difficile whole genome sequencing on a sample of C. difficile collected from across Europe on a particular day in summer and winter from 482 different hospitals from 20 different countries. That's roughly a sample from a hospital for every 1 million head of population. And what we did was to take the 10 most common subtypes of C. difficile and to examine them in more detail using whole genome sequencing. What we found was that 5 types of C. difficile actually were restricted to particular countries, so they seem to spread within countries but not to be swapped between countries. And these types of C. difficile are generally found in hospitals and associated with healthcare-related transmission. What we also found is that this seemed to be particularly closely associated with resistance to fluoroquinolone antibiotics, and so it may well be the use of these antibiotics drives transmission of these types. We then found 5 other types of C. difficile that were spread across Europe with no pattern by country at all. And this is interesting because it suggests that actually they're not being spread by person-to-person contact, but by something that gets distributed all the way across Europe. And although we don't know for sure, one thing that may need further investigation is whether the food chain is spreading these types of C. difficile.